It's great to be here, and once again, thank you to Vitamin Shoppe for kindly hosting us, and Brand Innovators for being the platform that connects us all. It is for me a real pleasure to be here with Ian and Margaret today. I am a fan of the brand. I am a fan of your journey, really, entrepreneurship, and I think that for me, it's fascinating, and I hope you will find this as well, how it is that, you know, they sparked from an idea to beating the leading, no grain brand in such a, competitive space that is cereal, and how do you really make it exciting for people again in a category that is, while it's declining, we'll learn that there's still an enormous opportunity there that they found. Welcome. Great to be here with you guys. Maybe you could maybe walk us through a little bit about what Three Wishes is, and, for those that are not familiar with it.
Cool. Okay, so Three Wishes, by the way, good morning, everybody. So Three Wishes is a better-for-you breakfast cereal, and what we did was we took all of those things about cereal that we loved, which was taste, but changed them, and that was our Three Wishes, which is we're high-protein, low-sugar, gluten, and grain-free. The other part of the Three Wishes story is that our last name is Wishingrad. There were 3 of us, there are 4 now, but we'll keep it 3 for the story. So it was the 3 Wishes that created it. And it's been a lot of fun because I think everyone has loved cereal for the longest time. I, as a child, loved it, adored it, but we realized as we became adults, and most importantly parents, that it wasn't so great and it wasn't something we wanted to feed our kids. And the moment for me, my aha, was my now 6-year-old, but when he was 6 months old, those recommendations for those little pincer skills was Cheerios. We see parents with Cheerios all the time. And I thought to myself, how are we still eating Cheerios? How are we still feeding our kids and consuming these extremely sugary cereals? And that was the nutty moment where I turned to Ian and I'm like, we should make a breakfast cereal. And he was like, yeah, we should. So that's kind of what started it.
Excellent, yeah. And so you started actually in a kind of an interesting time, right? You started the company, as you were beginning to grow the company during the COVID. So that must have been quite a big challenge. So I'd love to, hear about, how is it that you did that? What big idea did you have? You said, okay, parents want something that is good and delicious, for, kids. And then how do you really make it, how do you build it into a brand? How do you make a great product known to the world?
So just to take a step back, we have 2 businesses. We have an ad agency called Big Eyed Wish, and then we have our cereal. So the ad agency is almost 10 years old. And we kind of got the bug from working with clients. So we'd have the big clients, the Nestle's and AT&T's and Diageo's, and then you'd have these entrepreneurs that would come with ideas. And we're like, that's fun. And then you get to build a brand, and then you watch it grow, and it goes national. And not that we did it. We did the branding or the packaging. It's, they ran the business. But we had this bug of like, I kind of want to do this. And this was on the heels of all these kind of disruptive brands, and the Harrys and the Caspers and the Warbies, and everyone was disrupting everything. Granted, that was more direct to consumer. That wasn't necessarily how we went about it. But in our category, we had the Sietes and the Banzas, and just who thought you could rethink pasta, you could rethink chips, and everything's been kind of turned on its head. So when Margaret said cereal, we're like, that's a good one. That one's just got Post, Kellogg, General Mills, and a little bit of Pepsi. Has the same kind of, the same makings of Ready for Disruption. And basically, we worked for 2 years. We were taking, profits from the agency, hiring food scientists, going to different labs all over the place, trying to figure this out. So we made a lot of crappy cereal for about 2 years, and then 2 years into it, we made yummy cereal. And then we're like, okay, we're ready to go.
We're ready.
What made you keep on going? I mean, 2 years is a little bit of it's a bit of a while, right, for product development, particularly for a small company.
Well, so I had this idea in my mind of what I wanted the perfect product to be, and how I wanted it to crunch or soak in milk, or what the flavor profiles were. And the amount of times that I got, hey girl, that's never going to work, or that's, that formula is not it. And so we just kept going and trying because we were so committed to this idea. We're like, we know we could do this. So it just took a lot of pushing, and then finally that unlock happened. And the interesting thing is, for us, our 2-year-old then was probably the most helpful of all, because our branding and our packaging and our adult palettes are one thing, but the one thing a kid's never going to tell you is something's good when it's not good. And so we kept just feeding it to our son, and I was like, I'm not launching this until he tells me it's the most delicious, like until he tells me he wants more. And so we had all these batches, and we're like, all right, it's not there, it's not there. And then finally this one batch, and he's like, Mama, give me more. And I'm like, yes, it's ready to go to market. And so that was kind of, that was the path to launching. But yeah, it was good food and good marketing kind of need to work together, and people are not going to buy something the second time if it wasn't great. And so I was maniacally focused on getting the product right, and I think we were just committed to executing the idea and seeing where it goes, and just keep pivoting if you need to pivot, but following that road.
I love it. Yeah, not giving up. That's absolutely right. Kids are the best testers. They'll be brutally honest. You gotta love that. Yeah, that's right. And that's obviously the key to be able to get parents to buy more and more. So it's one thing we heard here today about getting somebody to buy things once, either because you've done a great job, via marketing, but if the product really can't stand on its own and it's not amazing, then well, people don't come back. So here you are, you finally got it right. Your son is like, give me more. What was the next big idea to, on that journey? You're like, okay, how are we going to actually get this to market? Do you sell direct to consumer? Do you sell on retailers? What do you do?
So part of those 2 years were product development, but also really laying out that strategy. From our agency background, we knew how important it was to kind of create our entire roadmap, or as much as we could. And so for me, it was, what are the accounts I want to be in? What's the strategy of how I want to approach consumers? What do I want to communicate to them? We did all of our packaging and branding in-house, and that was probably the most difficult client we've ever had, was ourselves, because you just overthink every little detail and you don't have that outside perspective. But in those 2 years, we really thought about the consumer behavior and what we wanted to be. We weren't creating cheaper cereal. It wasn't about delivering it to your door. No one hated going to the grocery store to buy cereal. Maybe you did, but then you Amazon it. But for me, it was, where do you want to buy this? How much do you want to pay for it? What are the ingredients you want to see? And so we kind of constructed it that way of, we want to be priced approachably, or probably $1 more than a conventional cereal. What are the ingredients as you're looking forward? Because it wasn't just like, hey, let's service the consumer for right now. What's that trend going to be over the next decade or 20 years, and how do we kind of service that consumer? And then where do they want to buy it, and what's the channel strategy? And so for us, we really thought about, we're a healthy, natural product, better for you. Let's go into better for you as our focus. So we really attacked the Whole Foods, Sprouts, and all those natural stores first to really build that consumer base of people that love it and are going to continue buying it. And then we wanted to kind of shift it into conventional so they can consolidate the shopping experience of, I used to buy my bread at Kroger, but my cereal at Whole Foods. Now you could buy it at Whole Foods still, but you could also now buy it at Kroger. And so we just created this roadmap of how do we want to execute and grow this brand over time. So that was the strategic part of launching the brand. And then the other side was, how do we tell people this exists? And that was the marketing side of the brand, which all you know.
All right, Ian, tell us, how did you tell people?
I mean, well, there's two parts. There's like there's marketing stuff we could show, and then there's, let me just give you like you could put on a roadmap Whole Foods and Target and Wegmans. It doesn't happen like that. You have to kind of be crazy. And like, I hunted down the buyer at the fancy food show. I badgered the buyer at Wegmans for a year, calling his assistants, like, well, who is this guy? So there is this, there's like a clean strategy, and then there's like this entrepreneurial, gritty, ugly, what it takes to get in there, beg, borrow, and steal.
We call it polite persistence, is how we position it, but it's exactly that. It's like, find your entryway, who that person is that can open that door, and then just keep knocking on that door until you're inside of it. And that's kind of.
So once you get on the shelf, obviously, you need great packaging, and I don't know if there's do we have a picture of the box? Is that easy to queue up? If not, whatever. You'll see it in the spot. Anyway, you'll see it, but my point was, we were very conscious about the branding. We wanted to, at the time, like RX Bar was so successful, right? They just put the ingredients on the front, it looked like nothing else. Very functional, with an attitude, showing you the ingredients. So we wanted to figure out a way, how do we feel, and this is the trick to branding, a bit of novel and a bit of familiar. If you're too unfamiliar, you're like, I don't know what that is. And if you're too familiar, it's like, why would I even try you? So we tried to create with a certain color palette and an aesthetic and a communication. There's no character, we have no Toucan Sam, but at the same time we don't look too kashy either. And everyone would ask us, are you for adults? Are you for kids? And we're like, I don't know, we're for anyone. And the truth is, trying to straddle that line to look new, fresh, yummy, interesting. How do you look indulgent in the healthy section? How do you look healthy in the indulgent section? A lot of work goes into just that initial visceral feeling for the packaging. And then once you're on shelf, now you have a hunting license. Now you just got to move the product. And there's a million levers you could pull. You could do deals on shelf and whatever. But for us, our background is we do a lot of buzzy stunts that make a lot of noise, that don't cost a lot of money. And we'll show you some of them. But basically, our first stunty thing that was cool that really moved the needle for us was, you know, we launched October 2019. We're just getting going. We're just getting in the accounts. And then we all know what happened in the pandemic. And basically, we did a lot of in-store sampling, and then no one wanted to take up. There was no sampling, right? It was like stay at home, run in, leave. And so basically, we turned our U-shaped driveway into a drive-through taste test because they were doing drive-through COVID tests. Let's do a drive-through taste test. So.
And I think a big thing, and this is like a lot of what Ian has loved to do in the past, also is you find it's a lemons into lemonade moment where it's like, how do you kind of, join the conversation of what's going on in the world? And nobody really wanted to join the conversation on COVID, but how do you find some silver lining there? And then the other part is just, how do you make consumers feel a certain way about a brand, right? Because you didn't want to leave them with this like ick feeling. You wanted them to feel like, great, here's this like small business that just started. How do I support them? So I think we brought this really fun human like feeling to the brand. But you'll see the spot and you'll get it. Yes.
No, not this one. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one.
You'll see that one later.
So I'm making a sign.
A huge part of our business was doing in-store sampling, and I don't think that's coming back anytime soon.
The founders of a startup cereal company converting their driveway into a drive-through.
Ian and Margaret Wishingrad.
Ian and Margaret Wishingrad,
The co-founders of 3 Wishes cereal.
A high-protein, low-sugar, grain-free cereal brand.
made of pea proteins and tapioca.
You hear those ingredients, you don't necessarily think it's going to be a delicious breakfast cereal, but we worked on this for 2 years, so people taste it and they're like, how does it taste so good?
Ian, I know you gave me some, so I sampled it. It's very tasty.
You were off and running, it was doing great, and then coronavirus came.
Ian turned to me and he was like, well, we have a U-shaped driveway. Let's just host it in our driveway and serve our local community.
Thank you so much. Right.
And this is the new normal. We'll figure it out and we'll be okay with it.
And so part of that, and so part of that was, that could have landed nowhere. It could have just been us hanging out in the driveway. It didn't matter. And so, there have been so many ideas that we've thrown against the wall that don't stick, but sometimes there are the ones that do stick. And what was interesting was that one, it started to just pick up some local press, and then it got picked up, and it eventually went to Fox. Apparently everyone eats cereal is the other thing you learn. But
what she means by that is we were literally, everyone's home, and we're all coastal, but you're on Fox News, you'll take the TV hit, and all of a sudden, the inbox, she has the laptop there, and every state, red state, every state was just ordering cereal. You're like, well, I think, I guess people want these options everywhere. Yeah. It's not just like this New York, LA thing.
But what's interesting is everyone's watching TV, right? All you're seeing is hospitalizations, like all these crazy things happening on TV, and it was this really nice moment, and you have all these eyeballs just sitting at home watching it because no one else is doing anything else, and so it's such a good opportunity for us to tell our story, but for also these news stations to kind of bring some light to a dark situation. So it was really beautiful in how the whole thing worked out, but it made us realize we should just continue doing these really fun things that we enjoy doing, and some of them work out well, some of them don't.
And for me, we still have the agency, we still have clients there, but I've tried in the past to do these buzzy ideas for clients, and it's really risky because you charge a lot of money, and if they don't go anywhere, you're dead. So you realize with clients, you want to do really good, safe-ish things, like let's make a spa, let's do this. But having this little incubator brand at home is a great outlet to just do all the crazy stuff that, as I said, if it doesn't work, okay, and if it works, awesome.
That's great.
We got the 5 minutes there, so.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so let me ask you this. I think that a lot of folks here are from slightly larger, let's say, companies. So what advice do you have, I think, for the audience about how do you create a culture where that engenders big ideas? How do you guys do it?
Okay, so what I was going to say is the one thing that we also learned is it's good to have some outside perspective, and within our company we decided to do these weekly hangs because we have everyone kind of scattered throughout the country, everyone's remote, and there are moments where people have had incredible ideas that we wouldn't have had because they have such great distance from certain parts of the brand. And so we hold these weekly calls, they're really fun, we kind of catch up, what's going on in the world, what are you up to, and then we start to think, we're like, okay, you know, what, we have Valentine's Day coming up in Q1 of next year, what flavor should we make? And our supply chain person was like, well, how about chocolate covered strawberry? That happened to be one of our best selling limited flavors that we did, and so we started to lead into these flavors, but what we realized... And
she used to be petrified of these meetings.
Oh,
she's like, she lives in Excel. So the idea of like a brainstorm was like, you know, killing her. And then she comes up with great flavors. So I think also, background of agency, I grew up in where you're like, you get in conference rooms and you're throwing ideas around. I like that a lot. And so I felt like what we needed to have, especially when you're virtual, like how do you do a culture virtually? It's difficult. We're small, so like we literally just turn the Zoom on, no work talk, and just bullshit, how was your weekend? And then we try to do the exercise of coming up with ideas, which is, you know, I don't know if we have time to show more, but basically, something we coined is called the evergreen zeitgeist. So it's like, what's going on now? Not now today, because now today's impossible to hop on. I mean, if you're lucky, you know, you literally go, a celebrity says something, or like, remember the Super Bowl, you could dunk in the dark and Oreos. You can't plan for those. Those are just reacting in the moments. But there are general themes that are going on, and if you identify them and find a clever way to insert yourself, you will get rewarded with PR and earned media. And that's kind of a practice that we all do together.
But I think even aside from that, just to jump on, if we have time to see one of these other ideas, we find news in the things that maybe don't even have a modicum of news. And so for us, it was, we rebranded and we redid all of our packaging. And we're like, no one really cares about this except the trade. So what can we do consumer facing to kind of tell the story of brand new packaging?
So yeah, so to Margaret's point, we had the packaging you saw in the first one was our launch packaging. We did a little facelift. We were talking to people and we looked a little too mom and pop, and we knew we were getting ready for Kroger and Albertsons and Target, and we're like, we really need this to be like dialed in. So in branding, it's called the squid test, where you notice that nothing really changed, but you made it better. So we did update our packaging, and it's tremendous. We think it's incredible of an update, but to Margaret's point, no one cares. Like, you're gonna get some, like, you get like a mention in a trade magazine that you updated your packaging. So in this meeting, we're running through ideas, and we're like, it's a facelift, kind of. And we're spending a lot of time on TikTok, as everyone is, and I don't know if you've been served these TikToks, but it's called Surgeon Talk. And there'll literally be a plastic surgeon, and they'll do before and afters above them in that green screen feature. And they'll be like, I didn't do this work on Kylie Jenner, but I think she's had her lips done and her eyes done or whatever. So we're like, what if we can get all the biggest TikTok plastic surgeons to review our facelift, our before and after? And so, you know, you can see that. That was really fun to call their offices. But yeah, we did.
He's like, it's a weird call, but I have a great idea, and you just like pitched it. It's really
so go to the last one. All right.
I'll show you that one.
There you go. All right. So this guy's got like, he's like the biggest TikTok plastic surgeon. Now we're friends.
Wish has got a mommy makeover.
I'm Dr. Richard Reich, board-certified plastic surgeon.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Diamond.
Hi, I'm Dr. Monica Q.
This is Dr. Seja.
Lori Hill here with another plastic surgery analysis.
Look at the before photos here. You can see the hanging with some drooping of surrounding tissue.
The Three Wishes logo is a bit saggy and low.
There's sort of a bottom in the appearance.
In the after photo, Three Wishes got a little bit of a lift, because who wouldn't want a lift?
The tux is higher. It's giving a lifting effect.
The Three Wishes have been elevated and the lateral projections have been enhanced.
There's now some drop shadowing behind the logo.
Gives it a little more of a pop.
It looks like some laser was done to lighten and brighten everything.
The cover is just so much more youthful and fun.
The cereal looks a little bit more augmented and plump to me. And this stuff is good. You guys should try this. But the new box,
it looks natural. It looks natural.
Still you, just a little fresher.
Really nice, symmetric, harmonious, really well done.
This is my kind of transformation and exactly what I love to see in my patients.
Great job, guys.
Clearly the mommy makeover was a success.
And what was interesting here, but the other thing is the audience is terrific, because these are all people who care about what they look like or they want to change something. So like they do make those changes in their eating habits. So we also got a really great new audience that, you know, we kind of got that, but then they also got our audience, so it was a fun exchange for both parties.
We did that for free, because we basically said, like, you know, if we were doing an injectable, obviously you have to pay, but I'm like, it's just like, listen, I think it should be fun, we're all trying to go viral, have fun with it, will you do it? And then we sent them cereal, and that was it.
Okay.
That was great, guys. That was a great ending. I think that was a fantastic viral moment there, and it was you know, a lot of humor injected in there. I think we're going to have time for one question here in the back of the audience.
Hi, Ian and Margaret. Spencer and then with cost. So I hear you when you talk about your pleasant persistence with targeting buyers and category managers. I can imagine you've got some unique stories and stunts that you've pulled to grab their attention. What's the best story you got for how you got the category manager's attention or how you won them over? Because I've done some unique things myself. Maybe we'll bounce ideas off each other after.
I think it's the Erewhon one.
Interesting.
Do you guys know what Erewhon is?
Yeah.
Right? It's like the #1 most influential grocery store in the whole world. Things cost way too much money. But if you're thinking about how you have discovery, you eventually want to get to Walmart. But eventually you want to start where you have the most influence and you cascade down. So we got reviewed and the buyer at Erewhon said no.
She's like, no one buys cereal in my store. And I'm like, okay.
And to be fair, in LA, this is when they had like 4 stores and it's all juices and this and like nothing like that. And we weren't like a homemade in your backyard granola. We were in LA, and I knew where their office was, and we planned to have a meeting with someone there, so I kind of just knocked on the door, talked to the buyer, and kind of said, I'm planning to meet so-and-so later, or whatever, and we kind of manipulated our way, and then I met the owner for coffee, and she said, I don't know if people buy cereal, and I made an argument and why people might. She goes, well, maybe it'll work here, and anyway, now we're the #1 cereal at Erewhon.
But the other thing was she thought no one buys cereal, and so we were like, all right, give us a chance. And then they called us literally a week later. They're like, it's doing so well. Do you want an end cap? And we're like, yeah, we'll take the end cap. And so went on the end cap, and it just kind of went. And then we kind of were the cereal that expanded that set. We showed them that they had the consumers that did want that aisle, but you know, it was just really fascinating to see that happen.
And I would say polite persistence is the method, but being really lovable, funny, human is the X factor there. Like you can keep politely following up. That's not what they want. They want like.
She's still the category manager there after turning you down and being.
Oh yeah. Well, she's been with the family. The family owns it. She worked for them before. She's like family. So yeah. But we're good now. We're in with all the right people. So.
It worked out.